The president's wife, Michelle Obama, made the case that we need Obamacare because there, but by the grace of God, she used that term, by God. Go I. It's an old saying. That's not true. It's not God who properly prepares you for unforeseen eventualities. And I'll give you an example out of my own life. My father last year became very ill, very serious cancer. They had to do a number of experimental treatments. He required long-term care, hospice care. It was a very difficult and painful period for our whole family. He eventually passed away. To date, the bills continue to come in, but they're paid because he properly prepared. I made sure of that. I sat down with them years ago, got them a Medicare supplement policy that actually paid something because there's so many junk supplement policies out there. Had them keep it even though the premium went up. Pay it. They put away money. They had got a good long-term care policy to take care of any hospice care. And not everything was paid for. But relative to the percentage of bill, the millions of dollars of bills, they paid almost nothing. Relative. They had enough money to pay whatever. And we all chipped in. Make sure Dad had the best of care. Anything he needed. They didn't go bankrupt. Far from it. It's not by the grace of God will determine whether you get a serious illness, whether it's debilitating or not. But the grace of God does not properly prepare you for any eventuality. Insurance does. You make room in your life and you set aside enough money to buy the proper products. Proper insurance policies were always available and still are. It's that people don't choose to buy them. They would rather have a new car or a new iPad or a new iPod or continue to work in a job when they could be earning so much more and doing so much better for themselves. That's a decision that you make. You listening to the audience and watching this show on the webcam. You have to decide for yourself whether you want to go bankrupt at retirement or continue to live a quality lifestyle by properly preparing. You have to be willing to sacrifice. You can't, and people say, well, I don't want to sacrifice. I don't want to. You have to. That's the realities of our healthcare system, that it costs money. You want to continue to go around and get 75 cable channels or whatever it is and 6 pay channels and have your Netflix and your iPads and your Starbucks coffee and your brand new cars every 4 years, then you're going to suffer for it later in life unless you're earning a lot of money. It's not the grace of God, but I know this will not happen to me or any member of my family because I properly prepare. I live within my means. I buy the proper insurance policies. If I buy catastrophic care, then I have a separate fund set aside for pay for any contingency. That's just the reality of it. People expect Medicare will be there to pay for their health care costs when they're in their late years. It doesn't. It pays 80% of care for major things. It doesn't cover the other 20% or experimental treatments or dental or eye care. There are a million things that Medicare doesn't pay for. Call a broker. Get educated. Medicare was not there to pay for every cost that you have at retirement. It just wasn't. It's designed to prevent catastrophic loss, catastrophic being designed as, the full bill, hundreds of thousands of dollars of care, to prevent that. You can still go bankrupt. If you don't have, 10 or 20K a year for your health care costs when you're retired, you're making a serious mistake. People look at me like I'm crossing. People say, I'm always I'm well taken care of. I have money. I have plenty of money. I've taken care of it. Then I ask them, do you have 6 months liquid income in the bank? No. Do you have a good plan of life insurance to provide for your family or that you can borrow against when you're sick? Because a bank won't give you money when you're 70 years old and sick. No. Do you have long-term care insurance to provide for in-home care, for a nursing home, so that you don't get put in one of these places for the poor, which take your home as collateral? No, then you aren't properly prepared. And don't let anybody say that you are. Everybody wants to invest money in the market, but they don't want to take care of the basics. Everybody wants their toys. You know, there was a story everyone was howling about that a McDonald's owner told his employees, look, if you don't have money for this or that, maybe you should sell some of your Christmas presents. And everybody was horrified. How terrible. Hey, listen, if you're working at McDonald's at flipping burgers and you can't provide the basic needs for your family, like health insurance, life insurance, money for retirement, because you're only earning $7.50 an hour, you got to do one of two things. You need to educate yourself and learn a trade and get a better job, or you need to sell your Christmas presents. I hate to break the news for you. That's not such an awful thing to say. Oh, you can't sell? Fine. You know what? Get them a card, a box of candy, and say, listen, I'm only working at McDonald's this year. Next year will be better. I'm going to school to learn a trade. That's life. And to expect government or expect me or my neighbor or his neighbor to pay for your medical bills because you don't have the proper education in your life, that's wrong. And I will argue that point to any liberal. People say it's terrible that Walmart had a collection for, people asking their employees who are paid minimum wage for donations. No, it's not. No, it's not. You don't have to work at Walmart. You could work somewhere else. Get a better job. I can't get a better job. I don't know. No one will hire me. Well, why is that? Because you're 52 and you don't have any education? Because you don't have any training? Because you won't take a job that is unpalatable or unpleasant? That's you. So when I hear about these stories, now I'm not saying that everybody is like that. There are true cases where a number of things conspire to bankrupt you or make you poor that are out of your control. But getting better and correcting the situation is absolutely 100% always in your control. Always. I firmly believe that something in your life is lacking. And that's where the focus needs to be, not Obamacare. If you've got a problem, Obamacare is not going to solve it anyway. Look at those policies. They're huge deductibles. If you're dead broke, you can't afford the premium or the deductible. So insurance isn't going to help you. You shouldn't have let your insurance go when you left that job. Yeah, it was expensive. Cobra was what, $500, $600 a month? I know these stories. I can't afford that. I'll just let it go and I'll worry about it my next job. You're putting a gun next to your head, spinning it, pulling the trigger, and hoping there isn't a bullet in it. It's that serious. Walking around without health insurance when you're working. I'm not talking about people who are unemployed, who got Medicaid anyway. I'm talking about the working poor, the guys who make minimum wage. And you don't have health insurance? It's only a matter of time before you get hurt. Sooner or later, you're going to get sick. The bill might be minor or it might be major. And then you're going to be a burden to everybody around you. And to expect government to pay for that is unfair, unjust, and not Christian. The presidents always like to say, well, it's the Christian thing to do, to help out your fellow man. Fine, let's help him out. Give him a job. But to put a gun to my head, and that's what they're doing, and to say you need to pay for your neighbor because he was careless with his decision making, that's not Christian. All right, I wanted to get into this story I ran. I ran a little long on